Hi everybody, welcome again to another program of Yeshiva Classroom, and we're going to focus on a Jew leaving the fold today. A Jew leaving the fold today. And remember, you can tell your friends if you like the program, they can get it on Google search Yeshiva Classroom. Google search Yeshiva Classroom. That's Google search Yeshiva Classroom. This is a picture of the portable temple, which the Torah, the Old Testament to the Gentiles, is described. The actual happenings of construction, the material used for the construction, and the portable temple that went with the Jewish people for 40 years and then went over to the other side of the Jordan River into the proper land of Israel itself, and it stood there with a little modification for 369 years, right? And eventually it became the Temple of Solomon, the first temple, David's son. Now, you should be taking down notes, preferably, because you can check on these comments that I'm going to be making. And we're going to go into contemporary thought and also the biblical sources. Now, bear in mind, again, we're talking about a Jew leaving the fold. A Jew leaving the fold. And you know that that there are in this society many observant Jews and many Jews who are not observant and are totally ignorant of their Jewish upbringing, or of a Jewish upbringing, or knowledge of the Torah, and have no idea what Judaism was all about. And as a matter of fact, this congressman from North Carolina who was elected recently was talking about conversions, and when it comes to a Jew, it's easy to convert. He called them cultural Jews, as opposed to those that are knowledgeable. And unfortunately, there are not too many, relatively speaking, of Jews that have received a proper education, Jewish education. And I'm going to talk about Jewish education, and even among the quote-unquote observant, the modern Orthodox, or the Yeshiva day school. And you know, it boggles me to hear of the day schools who have as extracurricular activities interscholastic sporting events with other schools in private schools, and you might think that all the effort should be for studying different parts of the Torah, and not having teams made up of students who have got to practice and a great deal of effort to be good at their sport, and even the time that is allotted to the playing, traveling to different schools, has taken away much needed time that should be devoted to the many different books. I'm speaking of the Torah, right? The understanding of the Torah, the Talmud, the Medrash, right? What is Medrash? Do we know what Medrash means? Do we know what that is? And basically, you know, in Exodus, you can write this down, Exodus 24, chapter 24, 12. Over there, God tells Moses to ascend to the mountain, and I will give you the tablets inscribed with the 10 commandments on them, the written Torah, and the commandments. And the commandments. And the commandments are basically the Talmud, which draws its source from the written Torah, the 5 books of Moses, our only testament, the testament that was given before 3 million Jews who heard these words being spoken by God at Mount Sinai. So in effect, the Jewish people, in their seed, is the divine hearing of God, a divine calling. So that makes the Jewish people prophets, because they heard a voice that emanated from the mountain, which was a takeoff on a human voice. So they heard the 10 commandments, and at that time they received the written Torah, and they used and learned from the Torah throughout the 40 years in the desert after they got liberated, after they were liberated from the slavery, from their exile, 400 years, because when Abraham made this covenant with God, God said that they will be in exile for 400 years. And at that birthday of Isaac, right? Abraham's children will be in exile for 400 years. And at the birthday of Isaac, 400 years, on the 15th day of Nisan, they were liberated. 400 years expired, and they came out. They didn't have to serve under slavery, but because of their assimilation, the last years was served under the agrees of Pharaoh and the Egyptians. So that covenant came true. Why do we have to go into exile for 400 years? Because God wanted the land of Canaan, which is really Israel, to be built up with cisterns, right? Cisterns are carved rocks which are able to contain water, and the fields were all in good working conditions, ready to plant before they took over the land of Canaan, because Canaan was really a heritage to Ham, Noah's offspring, and their lands were in the south, in Africa, and they had taken these land by what do you want to say? Yeah, they took it falsely. They drove out the people, and they settled there in Canaan, Ham, and their offspring settled there until God took it away from them, because it never belonged to them, and they took it illegally. So there we go. So here we are in the 21st century, and by the way, this program is being recorded on November the 15th, which is or the 16th, which is Tuesday. December the 15th, or 16th, which is after the election which was illegally stolen from Trump, just like the land of Canaan was stolen from the descendants of Shem, who are the Jewish people. So here we have, write this down, in Genesis chapter 15, God delineates the boundaries. God delineates the boundaries of the land of Israel, which the Jewish people should and will inherit somehow, some way. And here we have, in the 21st century, President Bush, who has been, in my estimation, the greatest president that has ever lived and ever ruled. Because why? He's gotten so much done. Just think of all, in the last 3-4 months, all the peace treaties and dealings that Israel has with the United Arab Emirate country, the country of Bahrain, country of Sudan, the country of Morocco, and they travel between each other. It's called the Covenant of Abraham, Abraham's dealings. And that's who we are. The Arab people are descendants of Ishmael, and Ishmael and Isaac were both fathered by Abraham. And do you see any talk of this tremendous accomplishments where the Democrats and their predecessors couldn't get even to first base? And here in Trump's 4 years, he signed peace treaties with those Arab countries and Israel, and they're doing business, and they're traveling between countries and making peace. And the media, biased media, never even reported of the happenings going on or the accomplishments that Trump did in that area alone. Never reported it. And only had bad things to say about Trump. Nothing positive in all his administrative years, those 4 years, and to the extent that Trump had to fight the media, right? He had to fight the mainstream media, who were all riled up against him, stacked up against him with their propaganda every night. He had to fight the FBI and Comey. Comey was brought before the hearing, Senator Graham officiating, and Comey couldn't remember who instigated or initiated the probe that the FBI did on President Trump, saying that there's possible collusion, even though with Russia, even though the CIA told the FBI that those witnesses were not credible witnesses. They worked for the Democrat Party. And I don't want to get tangential and going into politics, but you know, here we have a great Leach Congressman Adler, which has gerrymandered a slice of Brooklyn and Manhattan to give him a majority of Democrats in Brooklyn. And here he's speaking with his constituents, the Hasidim of Brooklyn, which is part of his territory. So, you know, go figure. But listen, we want to get on to our main thought of reaching out. And, you know, before I do that, I showed you the picture of the portable temple and how it's described in the book of Exodus, right? And here is the ark where the 10 commandments and written on the stone tablets are stored. And it's described in the Bible of how you should make the boxes one inside the other, right? One inside the other, and you put the stone tablets in there. It's described. Everything is described. So that's so significant. And of course we have the top of the top of those three boxes that are put on top of each other, the golden plate with the angelic features, where God's voice came from heaven to in between those angelic figures and spoke words to the people, to the Jewish people, because this book was given to the Jewish people to follow. And as a matter of fact, those words were spoken of to live by, right? So that's the portable temple. So much for that. We have the topic of wanting to direct our thoughts to a person who wants to leave the fold. Now, I recently saw a cousin, a first cousin, twice removed, at an affair where his picture was not in it. Picture of him was not in the wedding picture. Many people were involved, and I got his number and I called. I say, you know, this reminds me of like the purpose of our life, and that is a Jew is supposed to live according to the Torah and in order to serve God. What does it mean, serve God? God doesn't need anyone to serve him. It means that he should serve God by being a good citizen of the state of the Torah. And that means to serve him by doing the commandments and directives and ordinances that were commanded him, that were made with our forefathers and incumbent upon their ancestors through Isaac. That's in chapter 17, 19, and 17:21. Chapter 17, 19, and 17:21. Those directives were for the sons of Abraham through Isaac and not through Ishmael to follow. But the person will say, well, I wasn't there. I didn't make that agreement. Yes, you did, because every day you say the morning prayers, and after the Shema Yisrael prayer, you say, these words are certain, beautiful, and forever, and I affirm these words. So you or your father affirmed them when he went to the synagogue and he prayed every day for 3 times a day. So I said, look, that reminds me of the next world, where everyone in the picture are included in the next world. You don't have to be a rabbi, a scholar 24/7, but you have to go through the commandments. It's desirable that the higher the mark, the better the seat in the next world. But you have to go through this is a testing world. Many places it uses the word testing. In Deuteronomy 8:2, I afflicted you and tested you to see what is in your heart, mind, whether you kept the commandments or not. Simple sentence in the Torah, chapter 8 in Deuteronomy verse 2. Write it down, look it up. I afflicted you and tested you to see what is in your heart. Every time, to see whether you kept the commandments or not. Every time the word heart is used, it means the mind. See whether you kept the Torah in your mind and observed the directives. So that's how I wanted to point out in those words, that here everyone is of the family is going to be together, and you are out in the picture. You're out of the picture. A portent to the future where you're not going to be in the picture, God forbid. So there's a sentence in Mishlei, which is the Hebrew word for Proverbs, which says, everything is for the mouth, and the soul is never satiated. Excuse me. All efforts are for the mouth, but the soul is never satiated. What does that mean? It means instead of doing good deeds and learning and accomplishing in this world with spiritual raising of the spirit, one puts all his effort into all kinds of food, all kinds of exotic restaurants, all kinds of vacations, all kinds of efforts for the body. And what does the body have to look forward to? It has broken parts, old age, senility, loss of hearing or eyesight, incontinent and senile, and then eventually to the grave. That's the end. That's the end of the body until it's resurrected again after when Messiah comes. But the spirit lives on. The spirit is on this earth until the burial. And so it's hobbling around all different places until its burial. And then it receives a mark. Higher the mark, the better the seat. And passing grade is a number that Rabbi Chaim Luzzatto wrote in his Sefer. So look that up by the Chamchal, the book of ideology by Rabbi Luzzatto, Chaim Luzzatto. So that's the wedding picture, right? And some people don't have a clue as to what you're supposed to do. So it's understandable that they are going to be at a disadvantage. But some people have a clue, and they went to day schools, and they went to places of learning and growing up, and they still went away. I mean, I was speaking to a rabbi, a Hasidic rabbi, and he said that there's about 10% of the Hasidim, the Haredi, the very serious-minded people about doing everything according to the law. And he says about 10% go away from their roots and from their lifestyle of a Jew. But if they have 10, 12 children, one going away is not significant. It's not going to make a dent. And as a result, you see, the Haredi, people who believe and observe according to what they learned, they're increasing by numbers, great numbers. For instance, an area in Lakewood, the surrounding communities are up in arms because they're taking over their neighborhood. They don't want to be a minority amongst the Haredim, and they're trying to pass laws, and then they're not constitutional. So, but the point is, they're spreading in all directions, from Lakewood, New Jersey, all the way to the south and east, west, to Tom's River and different areas like that. And you have the same situation in Rockland County, Westchester, where the Haredis are expanding from Muncie, different communities, Spring Valley up there, that are encroaching onto other communities, and they're trying to pass laws to keep them out. So they don't like the way they look. They're not sociable. They don't come to our standards. All kind of reasons. And here they say, here's a picture of time in downtown New York. The Jews control the world, and they say, well, wow, how could that be? This is America. They know there's 100,000 Jews in Brooklyn that live under the poverty level, and they say, well, they're taking over the world, and there's anti-Semitism, and then we have to take care of that problem of anti-Semitism, and they're giving. They're establishing chairs at different colleges. They're giving money, millions of dollars to find out the reason why we have anti-Semitism, especially in the modern Orthodox world or the modern areas of suburbia, big cities. And they can't find a reason. How do you like it? With all that money, they can't find a reason of anti-Semitism. Even Jews that don't even realize they're Jewish or practice nothing Jewish, they get their swastikas drawn on their cars and walls. So what is that? So the Torah says that if not for anti-Semitism, the Jews would be swallowed up. They would be swallowed up entirely. And it's sort of like a reminder that, you're Jewish, you're not going to escape it, and be happy and study it and learn the beauty of practicing Judaism. So that's one area that is important to the Jewish people, and that is the observance of the commandments, that we made that covenant. In Genesis 26:5, chapter 26:5, Abraham figured out all the commandments that were later given at Mount Sinai. So that's what they did in the 40 years that they were in the temple, in the desert, wandering throughout the great Yeshiva of the desert, where they were studying all the text that Moses had brought down from Sinai, right? The Bible, the written Bible, the 10 stone tablets, and we are so happy to live by those divinely given precepts, that they studied all aspects of it, and even the oral law was learned there, and even the medrashim were learned there. And what is a medrash? It's something that they studied the written Torah, and they had different spellings of a particular word or context of a sentence where maybe a letter was left out of a word. So they developed a learning from that missing word, and they put it into a context that you need to decipher to learn out what they really meant by the medrash, by the thought that was handed down, right? It cannot be mostly not taken literally, but they are secrets to what is being given and passed down. That's called medrash. Besides the oral Torah, right? Besides the oral Torah, which is orally handed down from generation to generation through the Kohanim, the priest of the temple, right? And so, it says in many places in the Bible that that the Jewish people will be promised are being promised the land of Canaan, Israel, and God is making that promise. They'll get there. You see, in 1948, amongst all the nations in the world, Israel broke through and established a country, and little by little they expanded it to the rightful heirs, the Jewish people, because God promised it to them. No matter what the Pope or what the other ideologies think that belongs to. And we have a messenger of God, Trump, who declared part of that boundary in his administration to be recognized throughout the world. And that is the Golan Heights, right, in the Galil, and also the land of the city of Jerusalem as its capital. And all the Democrats every year in their they have a book that they will pass, and it's always they're going to make Jerusalem the capital of Israel. That's pre-election. That stands every year, every election. The president's going to make Jerusalem his capital, but no one did it until Trump did it, and Trump did it, and either by Trump, by a Gentile messenger, by Esther, Ivanka, they will get it, or by our pioneers who inhabit the borders. They will inhabit the borders, waiting for the Messiah to come, or waiting for the land to be annexed as it should be, as before this new administration comes into power. Even though November the 15th or the 16th, President Trump has evidence that the counting machines can be manipulated, can be changed. So he's not done yet, and with God's help, he will be successful, and the election will be overturned. What is a poll watcher? Poll baloney. They can't do anything. They go into the room whenever they want to, and they make their secret rulings, and they change everything, and they bring in balance, and no one can say anything. Even the Supreme Court. Nobody stands for justice. You look at the documents of One American News. It has all the documents, the documented people, what they saw going on. Nobody pays attention to that. Here's our heroines on the border. This is how they have to live, with the baby carriage to one side and shooting practice, target practice, because they know that we will eventually get the entire land, not because I want another piece of land. It's because it was promised to us by God. And here is the picture of the land and the tribes that will inherit it, and these are the different tribes, the 12 tribes that will inherit that land of Israel. And Jordan is baloney. That's part of the land of Israel, tribe of Manasseh, and God, Reuben, and half tribe of Manasseh. So that's so much for that. Now, you know, we have such a rapport with our God, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that Solomon wrote a book, one of the 24 books of the Torah, the Song of Songs, where the love between the Jewish people, Shir Hashirim, where the love between the Jewish people is written down, where God expresses His love for the Jewish people, and the Jewish people profess their love for Him. And God says, basically, you are beloved because you extend my directives, making them even more giving and charitable than what I gave you. And we see that in the last century, pre-war Germany, World War II, that there was so many different organizations for the dowering of brides, for care of orphans, for children, soup kitchens, and all kinds of societies collecting nickels and dimes to fill their needs. Here's the Song of Songs, chapter 1. Israel in exile to God. Communicate, Israel speaking, communicate your innermost wisdom to me again in loving kindness and closeness. For your love is dearer to me than all earthly delights. Like the scent of goodly oils is the spreading fame of your great deeds. Your very name is flowing oil. Therefore have nations loved you. And here's what Israel says to God. Tell me of whom your soul loves. Where will you graze your flock? Where will you rest them under the fiercest sun of harshest exile? God responds, if you know where to graze, O fairest of nations, Israel, follow the footsteps of the sheep, your forefathers, who traced a straight, unswerving path after my Torah. Right. That's what we have to do. We have to cut all this baloney out with running to new neighborhoods, have the building campaigns, wasted people's money, and then when the poor people get armed, and then they're going to take your neighborhood away from you, and you have to run, and you leave out the people behind, the old people, the poor people that can't keep up with your running. It's a farce to give any money for building campaigns that you see in the 5 towns happening, where they are building up and down Peninsula Boulevard like in a matter of 8 blocks of like umpteen synagogues. And what are they doing? Raising money to build bigger until the next Exodus. That's not how it should be. They should be open 24/7 for Batei Midrashim, This is what we need this is what we need to set up in the synagogues. Yeah, they have to teach, but not the rabbis droning on, because everything's in English. You don't need the rabbis today. They're social workers. I'm not talking about the Mickey Mouses that call themselves rabbis. I'm talking about the observant, not the pick and choose creeps. Baloney what they are. They have to stand up and call a spade a spade. We have to learn whatever level you're at. You come to the base of Medrash and you will take a book, whether it's Chumash, the Bible, the Gemara, and learn and figure it out by yourself. And you see the beauty, that's soul food, S-O-U-L. That's what we need to do. We need to learn. Now people have automatically, they have inborn qualities that make them want to come and to learn. And that's what we should bring out. And the mashgiach, the one in charge of the room, the Beis HaMedrash, should present to them a book that is applicable to where they're holding. Yes, that's a subject in itself, and it's something that should be addressed. And you know, over there when Moses came down from the mountain with the Torah, and he saw the people led by the Erev Rav, the non-affiliated, or the recent converts that came along after the exile, after liberation from that long exile, and they led the people into eventually worshiping a false god. But originally it was set up to be a listening post, from God's words that would stop there, because Moses wasn't there. So it was a stop at the golden calf. So they would try, those perpetrators who worshipped idols, and they were as tried and executed for worshiping idolatry. Then, in chapter 32, in Exodus, verse 35, then he sent a plague. He sent a plague amongst them. You know, like the corona, right? He sent a plague, and many more people were killed. And the question is, why were many people killed when you already tried the 3,000 and found guilty? Those are the people that stood by and didn't protest the worshiping and the construction of the idol. Just like today, they can't stand by and let them keep building more buildings, and no one's learning anything, relatively speaking. No one's learning anything. There should be a big hall, not the gymnasium, but a big hall. So if they want to play ball, let them go in the backyard. No formalized sport teams. Yeah. So, you know, so that's what I would tell my cousin. That's what I do tell him. I don't know if he listens. I tell him to call him back if you want more. He doesn't answer, but I call this through every time, or every once in a week or so. So some people are born with natural spirituality to Torah and to Judaism. We see like a person like Ivanka Trump, who has a love for the truth and found it, as many righteous converts to Judaism come and want to learn the truth about divinity and the Jewish people, and not all these idol worshippers, these other Mickey Mouses, religions that double talk you into belief that whatever they have to say. It says in Numbers 23:19, God is not fickle. God does not change his mind. God is not a man, and God is not the son of a man. In Numbers 23:19, before the God-man became a god, and before all of these other Mickey Mouse's religions became a religion. It says over there in Numbers chapter 23:19, it says over there that man is not a god, man is not a son of a god. And God is not fickle, he's not changeable to move his thoughts from believing in the one God to believing in a man God. So, in spite of what they're hammering into your head, seek the truth. Get the book by Rabbi Miller, Behold the People, or Rejoice, O Youth, by Rabbi Miller. Write it down. Behold the People, Rejoice, O Youth. So, we don't want to claim a monopoly that we are the ones, the true believers, but that's what we have to do. That's what the evidence points out to. The Torah was given to all the people. In Genesis, chapter 1, verse 2, the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters. What does that teach us? Teaches, what do we learn out from there? That God was looking for a people, a group, an individual who would be a surrogate for God, and that there is one God, and live by his rules, serve God by doing his commandments. That's how we serve God, and we rewarded for that. Just like a parent rewards his children if they eat their food and behave properly, he's given a reward. He's given a dessert after eating. So the Jewish people, they will be given a dessert for the next world if they live by the practices of what their forefathers handed down to them. And in Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 28, it says over there that God is speaking, I will address the hidden transgressions, but the sins of common knowledge is for you to address, you the Jewish people. God will take care of the hidden sins, but we're responsible one for the other. Now, I see that the Chabad does a great job, warm, slow, but sure, get the truth out. But I don't like the idea that the rabbis got to do the talking. There's enough books around here, the Gemara, the Chumash, they're all written in English. They have to work. According to the effort, so is the reward. According to the effort, so is the reward. So these are things that we want to get into a Jew who leaving the fold. He thinks that by happiness, one is to enjoy all the benefits 7/24 a week. to get the most pleasures for the body. And he's not aware of the Mishlei, the proverb that says, the soul is never satiated, because you want to go on, get up higher and higher on that ladder, like Jacob's ladder. He had a dream where he climbed the ladder. He climbed the ladder one by one rung at a time, ascending, right? The angels ascended with the accomplishments of having did good deeds on this world, right? And he brought them up to heaven, and then the others came down to get more. After leaving the principle up in heaven, the fruits of Torah he eats in this world. So, you know, one thing that wants to, I remember distinctly, maybe 20 years ago, this youngster at that time, we were in Texas, and they were there, whatever, and the kid says, "Well, I'm gonna go downtown." And it was Shabbos afternoon. Going to go downtown? What? I understand. I couldn't realize what he was saying. I mean, is this downtown, or is if there's another downtown below the north and above the south, where you need to take a train? You can't walk it. So I couldn't figure that out. I was flabbergasted until I realized that he was drifting away. And since then, I've been trying. To make some sense into his head. And one thing they want to attack is the Shabbos, the Holy Sabbath. The Holy Sabbath. You know, it's written in Exodus 31. But in the previous chapters also, it talks about the building of the Mishkan, the portable temple. It talks all about the materials needed, all about the heads of the construction, all kinds of information of how one should construct, led by Bezalel and his assistant, Oholiav ben Achisamach, Oholiav ben Achisamach of the tribe of Dan. He was assistant engineer. And it was so important, the holiness of that temple, portable temple, 25:7 in Exodus, and make for me a temple that I may dwell amongst them, so to speak. So all the efforts went into building that temple, that portable temple. Make for me a Mishkan so that I may dwell amongst you. The Mishkan is in the middle, right in the middle of the tent, surrounded by all those tribes of Israel, and that's where they wanted to place the Mishkan, the portable temple. That's the holy temple, which became the holy temple under Solomon, right? And then the second temple was built with the help of Ezra and Nehemiah and Cyrus of Iran, Persia. So where were we? So at 31. So that, but you know, it says, you know, you got to build a temple. We got to do these things, but remember 31:13. It said, interrupts with the words, Shabbos you must observe because it is a sign between me, God, and the Jewish people forever, that on that day you become holy. For on that day you become holy. And 31:17, and that day you recognize that God created the heavens and the earth. And that is our covenant, and that is our stronghold, our fortification for the entire Torah, that It is a book divinely given where the foundation stone is the observance of Shabbos. And anybody else who wants to figure out that, oh, this is 21st century, I don't need to follow these archaic rules, they are not to be believed. They're fifth columnists. They want some kind of a okay, so they can go along and do their transgressions of breaking the Shabbos, the most important day of the year. And that goes for all the other peoples, right? That, where do we see the word peoples in plural? The peoples. Yeah, when the forefathers are buried, they will be gathered into their peoples, plural. In other words, all the former generations of righteous will be there, and we'll be able to meet of all these righteous people and relive the fortitudes and the vicissitudes of being in exile, and how we overcame them, and how we were a sanctification of God's name. And it's a wonder that, being that we have the truth, that more Gentiles should be coming into our fold, not leaving our fold, because unfortunately they got a bad taste and were turned off. But people should be coming and be happy and realize that their soul is happiness when they observe the Sabbath according to the teachings and explanations of the Talmud, right? Look, I gave you a lot to digest. Yeah, it's defeating my own purpose, and I say, yeah, listen to me, you have to get the book yourself. You get the art scrolls. You can learn Talmud yourself. You don't need a rabbi. They ain't teaching you anything. It's just a flowery speech. You could do it. Yeah, that's good once in a while, but listen to, you got to do the work. You got a preparation. Look, I'm going to give you my personal telephone number, and anybody wants, they can call me, ask for Yeshiva Classroom. And you can call me, and maybe I can be of help to you in any way. But remember that we were taken away, not, God let this happen. God let this happen here. Put your numbers on your hand before you go into the crematorium. Little children, Jewish children, they were all taken up at once. They received sanctification of God because they were all taken up at once, and they died being they were Jews, being that they were Jews. And anyone who dies because he is a Jewish automatically gets the next world. So those 6 million who were killed or slaughtered, they get the next soul world, which is more important than anything. But we can't take our own lives. So remember, if I can be any help, give me a call. And remember what the great sage Hillel said: if I am not for myself, who will be for me? And if I am only for myself, what am I? So I see that we still have several minutes left. No, actually we don't have several minutes left. So again, let's remember the sage Hillel, who said, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? And if I am only for myself, what am I? If not now, when? We got to start right after you hang up from me. Get a book, read the Chumash, read in English. Read in English. Call me. I'll set a schedule for you. With that, I'm going to wish you all the best and a God bless.